Thank you very much, Director General Nurdin, who is also the Chairman of Council of this great institution. Distinguished guests, faculty, staff, graduates of the National Intelligence and Research University, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first to assist my two cabinet. Take our seats.
Thanks, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Please, let's take our seats. Thank you very much, Director General Nurdin, who is also the Chairman of Council of this great institution. Distinguished guests, faculty, staff, graduates of the National Intelligence and Research University, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first to assist my two cabinet ministers here as a former Minister for Higher Education. The suggestion by Chumba Murkomen that you can change your status using RPL or recognition of prior learning, Mr. Ogamba, is misleading. It is not possible for you to get a PhD using that route. You will not succeed. And also to state that it doesn't matter how much redemption you try in matters of being learned or learned. There are no shortcuts. You just have to go through the motions. And next time, I advise that you do what you have to do so that you can wear the right attire. However, on November 5th, 2024, I formally awarded a charter to the National Intelligence Research University, establishing it as Kenya's foremost specialized university to build the capacity of our intelligence community as a key national asset for posterity. At the time, I affirmed the government's firm support for this university to meet its mandate and issued a clear directive for posterity. At the time, I affirmed the government's firm support for this university to meet its mandate and issued a clear directive to the institution to expand its academic reach to the global south and especially to our continent. I am therefore honored to preside over this inaugural graduation ceremony of the National Intelligence and Research University, an occasion that not only celebrates the awarding of advanced academic degrees, but also signifies the realization of a shared vision to create a strategic institution serving as a center of excellence in intelligence education and research. I know the Chairman of Council has said that you have only 31 graduates here. And I want to confirm that it's not about the numbers. And I want to encourage this university not to focus on quantity, but to focus on quality. I know many universities in chasing numbers, they have become so broad in their academic programs, and in the end, they have lost focus. And the risk of trying to do so many things, you risk being a jack of all trades and a master of nothing. So I suggest to this university that remain focused. And that's why I am pleased to note that more than half of the graduating class, 17 out of 31, are from African countries, a demonstrable indication that the university is implementing the directive I gave during the award of charter. Equally, the enrollment of students from 21 different African countries in the fourth cohort signifies not only growth in numbers, but also the expanding and rich diversity that strengthens the National Intelligence and Research University's role as a strategic hub for knowledge creation, exchange, and cooperation. This university is equally positioned to contribute uniquely to Africa's strategic development priorities, including Agenda 2063, the Africa we want, which envisions a prosperous, peaceful, and integrated continent, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. I listened very carefully to the valedictor of that good gentleman there. And he spoke very ably for this class. If I had the opportunity to choose a valedictor for this class, the choice would be the same. He has acquitted himself and this class very well. However, he reminded us that this institution must focus on what has been said, African solutions for African problems. But I want to challenge this university to go beyond so that progressively we can change from African solutions to African problems to a new phrase of African solutions to national and global problems. Because indeed, we have the capacity to achieve it. The theme of this graduation, preparing strategic leaders for a complex world, aptly captures the realities of security challenges confronting Africa and the wider world. Threats such as terrorism, transnational organized crime, cyber warfare, money laundering, climate-induced conflicts, and economic sabotage transcend borders and demand a coordinated continental response grounded in shared intelligence and mutual trust. Integral to this vision is the progressive reforms of the African peace and security architecture, which calls for an enhanced intelligence sharing, coordination, and cooperation across member states. Key to this approach is proactiveness in addressing complex security threats that have consistently held back progress in our continent. We have just come from the Africa Union this weekend, and I did present a program on the reform of the Africa Union. Among the items of reform that I did present to the Summit of Heads of State is the reform of the peace and security architecture, which is the backbone of how we are going to secure this nation and this continent so that we can be able to achieve the prosperity that will be shared by the people of this continent. This university, among other universities, have the duty and responsibility to help us think strategically about how that reform is going to be carried forward. It is my expectation that through cutting-edge research, interdisciplinary and policy-oriented scholarship, this university will continue to build the capacity for intelligence professionals very well and equip them to assist Africa in navigating a complex security environment that we face. Ladies and gentlemen, our continent is uniquely endowed with intellectual capital, lived experience, and contextual insights necessary to develop sustainable homegrown solutions. Universities like this one are vital incubators of this capacity, grounded in African realities, enhanced by global best practices, and focused on strengthening African sovereignty and resilience. This quest to enhance African sovereignty and resilience aligns closely with Kenya's bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which places people, knowledge, and innovation at the center of national progress. Education, research, and innovation remain powerful drivers of inclusive growth, strong institutions, and strategic competitiveness in an increasingly interconnected world. With regard to research and innovation, I wish to emphasize the government's continued commitment to this vital sector and why we established the State Department for Science, Research, and Innovation to spearhead our national priorities. I am of the firm belief, and I have said this many times, I am of this very strong belief that no nation or society can progress or develop or transform beyond its capacity to think. And that is why knowledge, education, training, research is at the heart of our transformation. It is the reason we have undertaken in the last 3 years the most consequential transformation of our education system. We have not only straightened the competence-based training into competence-based education, we have reformed our funding model so that it is student-centered. We have expanded space in our classrooms, and we have made sure that there are enough teachers and tutors in our education sector. We have increased our education budget in the last 3 years from 500 billion to 700 billion this year. And in the next budget, we're going to move it to 765 billion. Why? Because education is important. It is the single most important asset that we can use to sharpen our human capital. Even at the moment as we undertake our privatization process, I have given clear instructions to the Ministry of Finance that part of those proceeds will go to all the areas we have mentioned, but some percentage must go to the research fund so that our universities including this university, can apply for resources so that we can build and create new knowledge for us to be able to transition our country to a first world country. In addition, I would like to draw your attention to the Kenya Research Financing and Capacity Strengthening Master Plan 2026 to 2036, which provides a clear roadmap for closing the research financing gap. The plan envisions scaling up national investment in research and development to 2% of our GDP as envisioned in the Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013. A critical step towards sustained national development. Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward, I challenge this university to remain intellectually ambitious and future-oriented by continuously developing cutting-edge programs that are responsive to Africa's development imperatives and the realities of the world we live in today. To our graduating class, you join the ranks of Africa's next generation of strategic leaders. Your academic achievements confer not only credentials, but also a solemn charge to serve with integrity, strategic foresight, and a steadfast commitment to the public good. Whether your future unfolds here in Kenya, across the continent, or on the global stage, you carry the responsibility to uphold the highest standards of professionalism, ethical intelligence practice, and respect for the rule of law. I want to say this in conclusion, that as we set our eyes into the future, we have made a conscious decision as a nation that we are going to build a firm foundation for us to transition this nation, this great nation, to a first world economy. And we have done well in setting the foundation. We have consolidated and stabilized our economy. The numbers speak about it. Our inflation, our exchange rate, and all the other numbers. Institutions speak to it, credit rating agencies, and everybody in between. We have undertaken the most consequential reform of our education sector because it's necessary. We have undertaken transformation of our agricultural sector. The numbers in our food security, in our exports of tea, coffee, horticulture, confirm. We have undertaken the most robust reform of our health sector. The numbers again confirm that the transformation is real. And we have expanded opportunities for young people in this country, whether it is in our physical development of infrastructure, in roads, in housing, in markets, in hostels, or in the digital space, or in creating opportunities outside Kenya, or in opportunities we have created in business. So we have set a very firm foundation. But that is not enough. That is why we have set for ourselves a new trajectory. And it is good for me to speak about this in front of intellectuals, so that as we drive into the future, we can all move together. We have set ourselves that we need, for us to move Kenya to the next level, we need to generate more energy, 10,000 megawatts to be exact, over the next 7 years. We need to build more infrastructure, expand the road network by about 28,000 new kilometers of tarmac, extend the railway to Uganda onto DRC, build a new airport, expand that infrastructure space sufficiently for us to undertake the kind of transformation that will move our country to the next level. And we have also undertaken that we are going to transform our agriculture. Because of climate change, it is no longer tenable for us to depend on rain-fed agriculture. Therefore, water harvesting, water storage, irrigation is going to be our next frontier. And for us to be able to undertake that heavy lifting, building on the firm foundation we have already set for ourselves, 3 enablers are also important. The security of our nation, the security of our infrastructure, the security of our people is of importance. Number 2 is the development of high-quality human capital with a capacity to create new knowledge, with a capacity to create new ideas. Because as I have said, no nation, no society can develop or make progress beyond its capacity to think. And finally, it is important for us to believe in God, to believe in ourselves, and to believe in our nation. If you have a problem believing in your nation, don't look for somebody to blame. Go to the mirror. That is the person to blame. We all have a responsibility for the good and for the progress of our nation. This university, the National Intelligence Research University, have a role to play in what I have said. I have said the security of the nation is a critical enabler for our transformation. Intelligence has a role in security. The believe in ourselves and not succumb to social media narratives and fake news and misinformation and disinformation and everything in between that undermines public trust, that undermines the belief in our nation. You have a role to play. And finally, the development of high-level professional human capital. That is the essence of the establishment of any university, but more particularly, the National Intelligence and Research University. To the class of 2026, congratulations. My very, very best wishes as you walk out of this university, and I wish you well in your careers as you do the best for your nations. Thank you very much, and God bless you.